The stories presented in this video are real, but we have changed the characters' names and altered images to protect their identities. The creator of this video is not an investigative officer. These narratives have been sourced from various internet platforms. Our intent is not to accuse or target anyone in particular. Thank you for understanding.
Welcome to True Crime Stories Hub. Today we're going to examine yet another terrible situation. On March 4, 1992, Jacqueline Jackie Vandagriff was born in Carrollton, Texas. Of her two daughters, she was the youngest. Jackie spent her entire childhood in the Frisco, Texas colony, where she grew up with her devoted family. Jackie demonstrated her innate flair for gymnastics by learning to somersault before she could walk. Her future success was made possible by this early introduction, which also fueled her love for the game. At the age of 3, Jackie's parents saw her potential and signed her up for gymnastics classes. She refined her abilities throughout the ensuing years and enthusiastically competed in a number of events. In the Texas State Gymnastics Association, Jackie achieved level 5. According to those who knew her, Jackie was a kind and sympathetic individual. Jackie truly cared about other people's welfare and had a golden heart. She was a devoted friend who pushed her family members to reach their full potential. Jackie's presence provided solace and happiness to everyone around her, whether it was through words of support or just listening. Jackie's generosity went beyond interpersonal connections. She was a lifetime vegetarian, had a strong affection for animals, and supported adopting pets from no-kill shelters. She has empathy for all living things. Jackie loved to read. She would lose herself in the enchanted realm of Hogwarts, and Harry Potter was her favorite book series. Jackie loved music as much as she loved reading. Jackie had a wide variety of tastes, from Rob Thomas and James Taylor to Pink. She had a deep love for musicals, particularly Rent. When the show was in town, she would attend every performance. Jackie made the decision to enroll at the Paul Mitchell School for Cosmetology after graduating from Wakeland High School in Frisco. She obtained her licensure as an esthetician after completing her schooling. Jackie was adamant about going to school, so she enrolled at Texas Woman's University and chose to concentrate in food science and nutrition. She felt that everyone should have access to healthy food since she understood how important it was. In her ideal world, Jackie would be able to inform others about the value of eating healthily and encourage them to make better decisions. Jackie Vandagriff appeared to be headed for greatness. The junior in college was headed toward realizing her goals and making a difference in the world. But she would sadly meet her demise in the summer of 2016 after a fateful encounter with a malevolent individual. An officer with the Grapevine Police Department in Grapevine, Texas, received a distressing call at approximately daybreak on Wednesday, September 14, 2016. Someone had discovered a body near Grapevine Lake, the caller told the officer. The officer went to the scene right away after receiving the call. When the police arrived, he entered a wooded area and found a well-worn route. He continued on the path till he reached a charred area. There was a blue plastic kiddie pool here, and a body was in it. The body was burnt beyond recognition, and the police soon discovered that it had been set on fire. It had no distinguishing characteristics that would have allowed one to identify it as an adult, kid, male, female, or even the victim's race, making identification impossible. The severely burnt remains were taken to the medical examiner's office because of the state of the body, which made identification impossible. Later, fingerprint identification would show that Jackie Vandagriff, 24, was the owner of the body. Investigators investigating Jackie's last moments discovered that she had been last seen in Denton, close to college. In Shots and Crafts, Jackie had been to 2 bars, including Fry Street Public House. Jackie's body was autopsied by the medical examiner while police awaited the security footage from those locations. Jackie had been murdered, her body further mangled after death, and she had been dismembered, beheaded, and burned. However, the most horrifying finding was that her killer had taken her heart out. Denton started to hear of Jackie's murder. People who said they saw the fire at the crime scene and a suspicious individual hanging about it gave the cops tips. The CCTV footage from 2 pubs Jackie had frequented around the time of her death was eventually obtained by detectives. At 7 p.m., a man was observed entering the Fry Street Public House, the first pub. He was spotted drinking while seated at the bar. Jackie entered the Fry Street Public House an hour later. Jackie talked to this man and the bartender as she was seated at the bar. The video recorded their exchanges and offered important hints about their potential relationship. Jackie posted a tweet on her Twitter account approximately 45 minutes after the video showed her entering the Fry Street Public House. It said, "I'm glad I decided to walk to a pub instead of using Tinder." Jackie and the man exited the bar together after spending a considerable amount of time at the Fry Street Public House. They proceeded to Shots and Crafts, another pub, where they socialized with other women. Jackie and the man left Shots and Crafts together at approximately 9:45 p.m. The CCTV footage allowed the cops to follow Jackie and the stranger. After tracking them down, they learned that Jackie had been transported to the man's vehicle. Jackie is spotted in the man's car at the convenience store, and everything seemed to be fine at that moment. But that was the last time Jackie was seen before she was killed. The bartender from the Fry Street Public House was interviewed by the detectives. The bartender claims that after Jackie struck up a cordial discussion with him and a male patron at the bar, she came in to ask for a job. The bartender acknowledged, though, that he didn't know anything more about Jackie's and the male customer's fate after they departed his place. The cops then discovered that Shots and Crafts security tape showed the man and the woman Jackie. A woman in the group claimed that the man Jackie was spotted with had given her a business card. The woman claimed that because she showed interest in fitness and the male was a personal trainer, they had exchanged contact details. This seemingly unimportant detail would turn out to be a pivotal discovery in the study, despite its initial lack of significance. To their astonishment, the woman voluntarily gave the investigators the information while still holding the card. The card's name? Bryant. Charles. By this time, the investigators had film of Charles buying a shovel at Walmart at 4 a.m. The identity of Charles Bryant, the last person seen with Jackie prior to her murder, was thoroughly investigated by the detectives. Their results were really disturbing. A 29-year-old guy named Charles Bryant resided about 20 miles from Denton, but he was strongly attracted to the city. He was there in a desperate attempt to get back together with his ex-girlfriend Caitlin. Caitlin was a Grapevine resident and a student at the University of North Texas. 3 months prior, on the day of her high school graduation, Caitlin had met Charles Bryant at her home in Grapevine, Texas, when he entered the restaurant where she was a waitress. Caitlin was accustomed to high school lads, but Charles was different. First of all, he was about 10 years Caitlin's senior, in his late 20s. Second, Charles's powerful body was flaunted by the numerous tattoos covering him. As a bartender and personal trainer, he had special abilities and qualities that captivated Caitlin. Caitlin and Charles were at Grapevine Lake almost every day in the summer of 2016. With every day that went by, their attraction intensified, and Caitlin was enthralled with her older boyfriend's mysterious personality. But not everyone was as excited as Caitlin was. Caitlin's mother realized how much of an age difference existed between her and Charles as their relationship developed. She begged Caitlin to show her a photo of Charles since she was worried about her daughter's health. Despite her early willingness to overlook Charles's actions, Caitlin's mother said that she felt instantly uneasy when she looked into his intense gaze. She seemed to be looking straight at evil. Growing more worried about her daughter's welfare, Caitlin's mother expressed her worries and urged her to reevaluate her connection with Charles. Caitlin, however, disregarded her cautions, writing them off as unimportant parental worries. Ignorant of the evil that lies underlying her seemingly innocent attraction, Caitlin argued that he was really kind to her. She had no idea that her innocent affair would soon become a terrifying ordeal. Caitlin's new connection with her older lover initially made her happy. But as the weeks went by, she started to have her thoughts and wonder if her mother was correct. It seemed to Caitlin that Charles thought highly of himself, and he was too egocentric and manipulative. Charles would continuously remind her that she would never meet someone as good as him, only to make her feel horrible. Caitlin made the decision to split from Charles by the middle of August 2016, as she was getting ready to relocate to Denton for her first year of college. The warning signs were become too many to ignore. But the next day, Charles arrived at Caitlin's house and pleaded with her to reconcile, saying he would do better. Caitlin relented and they started dating again. Caitlin left Grapevine to begin school in Denton in less than a week. Caitlin's relationship with Charles terminated permanently after she moved out. But Charles wasn't the kind to accept rejection. Charles was discovered by authorities during a traffic stop on the University of North Texas campus on August 24th due to his driving behavior. Charles was not above the legal limit of alcohol, but the police believed it was a DUI. However, he was released after being charged with multiple outstanding warrants. Charles returned to the University of North Texas a few hours later and knocked on the door of Caitlin's dorm room, which he had somehow found. Charles had already disappeared by the time the policeman arrived after Caitlin dialed 911. When the officer questioned Caitlin, she revealed that she had ended their relationship because she was tired of Charles's treatment and communication style. Charles, however, disagreed with this choice. The police officer took Caitlin's worries seriously and banned Charles from the UNT campus by issuing a temporary no trespass order. But this setback did not discourage Charles. Despite the limitations imposed by the school, he was adamant on finding a method to reach Caitlin. Charles happened to run across Caitlin on her first day of a new job on August 31st. Caitlin requested Charles to leave after recognizing him. To discuss the matter and ask him to prevent Charles from entering the company, Caitlin set up a meeting with her manager. But Caitlin was told by the boss that he had no authority over this request. Caitlin had to resign from her position as a result of the event at work. Charles was determined to face Caitlin no matter how hard she tried. He would do whatever it took to get even and hurt her more. As Caitlin's life remained in danger and Charles's infatuation devoured him, the cycle of intimidation and fear persisted. Meanwhile, Caitlin was living on the UNT campus, which deeply concerned her mother. Her mother begged her to come home so they could protect her since she was worried about her safety. But Caitlin felt secure in her choice to remain in her dorm room, secure in the university's boundaries. Charles's reappearance at Caitlin's UNT campus residence on September 6th was a terrifying event. Fearing the worst, Caitlin hid in her suite mate's closet while he rapped on the door of her room. She could hear Charles calling for her to come out from where she was hiding, saying he had something for her. Caitlin's worst nightmares started to come true, and she couldn't stop thinking about the horrifying things that Charles might have planned for her. Terrified for her life, Caitlin decided at a moment to call 911 while inside the Lacoste, speaking softly so that Charles wouldn't overhear her. Despite the dispatcher's repeated requests for her to speak up, Caitlin was too terrified to do so. In spite of the dispatcher's efforts, Caitlin's voice could not be heard because of the intense terror she was feeling. The cops eventually made their way to the location, but Charles had sadly already left. But he left flowers, a 2-page handwritten letter to Caitlin, and a disturbing reminder of his presence. The young woman's anxiety was increased by the unsettling messages in the letter. Charles was caught by police outside the university a few minutes after the event, wearing running clothing as though he was working out like a student. A few hours later, he was freed on bail after being detained for trespassing. Charles kept coming up with new ways to reach her even after Caitlin blocked him on her phone, email, and social media accounts in an attempt to cut off any connection. Since Charles made several accounts to stay in touch with her, the police intervened to help Caitlin get a protection court order after realizing that Charles's actions had become more severe. She formally petitioned for the injunction, which gave her legal protection against future harassment, the very following day. But Charles persisted in attempting to get in touch with Caitlin even after his initial arrest. Due to his repeated violations of the protective order, these unsolicited messages led to his second arrest for stalking. In 2 weeks, it was his third arrest. Charles was freed from detention after posting a $5,000 bond after his second arrest. Charles Bryant visited Fry Street, where Caitlin frequently congregated, when he was free on bail. Investigators were certain that it was there that Charles met Jackie Vandagriff. Nothing tangible was found, despite the fact that there was a great deal of circumstantial evidence connecting Charles to Jackie's death. The detectives at UNT who were assisting Caitlin with her stalking case became concerned for her safety after learning that Charles was the main suspect in a murder. According to Caitlin, she was okay. Nevertheless, Charles sent Jackie a number of pictures, emails, and texts in the days after her murder. Charles was taken into custody by the police on September 18th for breaking Caitlin's protective order. The police hoped to uncover additional evidence linking Charles to Jackie's killing while he was incarcerated on those charges. When detectives showed Charles a photo of Jackie, he claimed to have seen her in the pub but to have no knowledge of her. Investigators served a search warrant on Charles's residence while they were questioning him. Investigators discovered a big military-style knife in a Texas woman's university purse, which was actually Jackie's school purse, during the search. Investigators also discovered a kiddie pool that was removed from Charles's backyard, and that was identical to the one in which Jackie was discovered deceased. The cops sought advice from a specialist who had dealt with serial killers for a long time. This specialist has experience with the Texas Rangers and was well versed in comprehending Charles's mentality. They were aware that males like Charles frequently felt compelled to discuss their misdeeds. Charles denied remembering Jackie at the start of the first interview, but the specialist thought Charles was concealing something. The specialist had a feeling Charles was aware of Jackie's fate. The expert made an effort to reduce the tension in the interrogation room in order to foster a welcoming and transparent environment. The specialist gave the impression that they were just two friends chatting casually at a neighborhood bar. The expert wanted to calm Charles's nerves and earn his trust by building a relationship. As they conversed, the specialist started speculating about potential outcomes to see if Charles would fall for it. In order to lure Charles on and aggravate him, the expert attempted to paint Jackie as an instigator. The expert employed a variety of strategies to gauge Charles's response to various cues during the chat. The expert's strategy was not risk-free, though. The expert might lose Charles's trust and impede the probe if he pressed too hard or came across as dishonest. As a result, the expert had to find a middle ground, remaining cordial while quietly attempting to get Charles to tell the truth. The expert kept a careful eye on Charles's responses and body language throughout the interview in order to gain a deeper understanding of his personality. The expert performed a quick memory exercise under the guise of helping Charles remember what had happened before Jackie's admittance. Charles's account started to vary a little, much to the experts' amazement. Charles first denied knowing about Jackie's admission, but later revealed that he had met her at the Fry Street public house when she went there to get a job. As the expert and Charles continued their debate, the expert made the decision to use a different strategy. The expert placed an order for pizza in the hopes that it would calm Charles and help the investigators figure out why Jackie was killed. The case's detectives concluded that Charles's unbridled anger toward his ex-girlfriend Caitlin was the primary cause of Jackie's death. Over the course of the roughly 3-hour interrogation, Charles acknowledged accidentally killing Jackie during what he called kinky sex. Charles claims that the incident happened in his car and that Jackie wanted him to use an oversized zip tie he had on hand to choke her. Charles, however, maintained that the death was unintentional. Neither Jackie nor Charles tightened the zip tie, according to Charles. It had just occurred. Charles Bryant was charged with Jackie Vandagriff's murder following the interview. Caitlin, Charles's ex-girlfriend, was astonished to discover that they were already friends after looking at Jackie's Facebook page on social media after he was accused with her murder. Before Caitlin knew about the case, she suddenly recalled receiving a friend request from Jackie's Facebook profile the day her body was discovered. Caitlin was certain that the suspect in Jackie's murder, Charlie, her ex-boyfriend, had friend requested her on Jackie's phone. In addition, one woman, Christy, was shocked to learn that Charles, whom she had met on a dating app the year before, had been charged with murder, according to a tweet that was posted from Jackie's account following her passing. Although the Charles she knew was quiet and restrained, she noticed a few warning signs that made her suspicious during their brief encounter. According to Christy, Charles grew attached to her very quickly, and she ultimately made the decision to break up with him. But Charles persisted in his pursuit of her, even frantically declaring his love for her. Christy was taken aback by this statement because she and Charles had never kissed. Working with traumatized children as part of her job provided Christy a unique viewpoint that helped her identify some trends in Charles's behavior. Because she had observed similar trends in others of her young clients, she assumed that he had been abused as a child. Christy finally plucked up the guts to inquire about Charles's childhood abuse. Charles surprised Christy by acknowledging that he had gone through such trauma. Nevertheless, Charles's allegations of abuse were not corroborated by the police. But Christy believed that Charles had been mistreated. She maintained contact, if distantly, with Charles because she felt sorry for him because he was a kind man, but she never believed he was capable of murder. The prosecution was concerned about presenting a case because Jackie's autopsy revealed little details, including her cause of death and the location of her murder before she was dismembered and burned. Important issues remained unanswered as the autopsy results did not offer definitive insights into Jackie's death circumstances. After Jackie unintentionally passed away during violent sex, Charles acknowledged that he had disposed of her body. Charles admitted to being involved in Jackie's body disposal during the course of the investigation. He did, however, enter a not guilty plea to her murder. In order to establish a connection between Charles's anger towards Caitlin and his eventual murder of Jackie, a person who even Charles acknowledged during his interrogation looked remarkably like Caitlin, the prosecution asked Caitlin, his ex-girlfriend, to testify about his stalking behavior and obsessive, violent tendencies. During the trial, Caitlin testified without a jury present. She showed uneasiness by refusing to look at Charles when he was asked to identify him. She grudgingly pointed him out, though, when forced to do so, saying that his smirk made her sick. Overwhelmed by the emotional effect, Caitlin sobbed as she exited the courtroom after testifying. In the end, the judge decided that Caitlin would not be allowed to tell the jury about her romance and eventual breakup with Charles. Charles Bryant was put on trial for Jackie's murder in April 2018, 1.5 years after her untimely death. However, Jackie's best friend decided not to go to the court sessions since she couldn't stand seeing Charles. The whole idea of having to meet him directly was too much for her to handle. It served as an agonizing reminder of how he had destroyed their lives.